And I'm so excited that today we have Ellie, who is a amazingly enthusiastic and helpful and collaborative GW member. And I'm so excited for what we're all going to learn and see happen today. So give Ellie a warm round of applause and over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the lovely welcome, and thank you everybody for being here today. It is kind of super special for me because this time last year I was brave in a generalist world summer school and did a kind of public speaking kind of live practice, and it was really transformative. And yeah, and now I'm here. So, shout out to whoever it is in the audience who's going to be running a session next year. I can't wait to be part of that. Um, okay, right, we're going to get going. we there is an option to kind of watch what we're doing, but there's also a run it yourself on your own Lovable. And Lovable have been, I love Lovable, they have been super generous and have given us, and I'm just going to drop it in the chat, a code for 100 credits, and you can get such a long way on 100 credits. Oh, thank you very much, Joanna. And I'm just going to drop in here. I've got a Google Doc which everyone should just be able to access, which is the kind of build along in the background if you want to do it yourself, right? And I'm just going to share and we are going to get going. So it being summer school, what I thought would be a fun thing to build and a helpful thing to build, because that's what the trail is for this, we are going to build an app which helps us keep track of our learning, and helps us grow in our learning and direct our learning and kind of nurture our curiosity. So that's the plan. Okay, so I've got the kind of the presentation here on this side. There's a big picture of my nose. I have a skills and learning business which I run separately, but like any good generalist, I was also a domestic abuse detective. I'm a swimming teacher. I've worked in refugee resettlement. I have really felt I never fitted in anywhere or had the kind of the right, didn't understand that it was okay that I liked all these different things and could do different things until I became part of generalist world. So I am forever grateful for that framing that Millie and AJ have created. Okay, so we're going to jump in. Generalist world, it's such a great place to be a part of. The really long-term view, the kind of the serious, but serious about sincerity is something that I truly love, and also everything that is, it is really a real community. And Lovable, by my training, I studied medieval literature as a student back in the kind of like 1999 and kind of onwards. So I have not studied anything technical for a very long time at all, and it was at a very basic level. But what I'm so in love with about Lovable is that you can have an idea and you don't need to know those things. The gatekeeping is gone. You can build and you can have your idea and go, let's just explore, let's find it out. So it's kind of like the uh, ultimate generalist tool, I think. Okay, so the one question that I think is super helpful before you start building is to ask yourself, who for, so that. So who are you building for, and what is it so that they can do? And it might be yourself, but yeah, who for, so that. If you're not quite sure on the answers to those questions, or you can't kind of say it out loud, then just have a little bit more of a reflection, but also it's fine, you can do what you want, you don't have to answer that question, you can just build something and see what pops out. But that's quite a helpful anchor, especially if you're being mindful about your credits. What's great about Lovable is you get 5 free credits a day, so you can iterate on your ideas for free day by day, and that question really helps not blowing a budget on credits. Okay, but you've all got 100 credits now, so you can do that. Okay, so what I wanted to build today is a helpful app that helps curious generalists so that they can keep track of their learning, their impact, and what they're curious about next. So that's our brief for today. Okay. And part of the reason that I picked that, and this is part also why I think Generalist World is so amazing, is because the World Economic Forum, these are the core skills which employers named as their top, kind of within the 50%, above 50% named these are the skills which people are going to be looking for now and in the future. So we've got some really cool stuff there. So we'll come back to that later, but we're going to build it into the app. Okay, so we've got this. Hopefully you've got your credits. You've got the build along bit if you wanted. And when I'm going to get to the next bit soon, we've got to get, there we go. Right, so I'm going to grab my first build. Is everybody all right? Okay, just shout. Right, so we're going to do our scaffolding and our authentication first. Okay, so I've got this. This is basically the home. This is your kind of start where you go. Okay, so, oh, I put this first, the wrong one in first. There we go. Let's put the first one in first. That's always a good approach. Okay, now I quite like the colours that I've got here. So I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of this and attach that to here. So it will use my presentation to build the design of the app. Okay, so we've got this button here, which is plan, which is really useful. I'll probably do it once so you can see, but that means that it will spend time thinking before it starts building, and you can look at the plan. It's a really useful way of learning because you can see what Lovable thinks about what you've asked for and how it's thinking about, okay, I can build that this way, I can build it that way. And then it starts it's thinking about the user interface mood and structure, and then it builds a plan, and you can choose whether to approve the plan or tweak it. Okay, so we've got a plan here. So I didn't give it a massive prompt. There was more in there about what it looked like. And it's talking about the authentication, which is a really big point that we will talk about. It's done some tech notes. It's talked about what's out of scope. Okay, I'm gonna hit approve. Let's see what it does. So this, whilst it's having a think there, this could be a good opportunity to do a question. I don't know if we've.
I'm not sure if we have questions
Oh,
yet, but
okay, that's cool.
yeah, I
That's
think
cool.
everyone's following, but I would encourage folks, as soon as you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat because Edra and I are collating them on a Google Doc. So we will be able to ping Ali. The full prompt, I think Edra has just shared the doc. Is each prompt 1 credit?
There we go. That's the problem. So it's interesting, and it's a bit of a. I'm not sure I know the answer about exactly how the credits work on Lovable. Sometimes, and it depends what it's kind of doing in the background. Sometimes you can like almost complete a full build and you'll be like, oh, I spent 3 credits. Or sometimes you can try and ask it to do something quite complicated, and then before you know it, you're like, how have I kind of crunched through all of those? I think there's probably some really good discussions online where people have kind of really got into the detail of how the credits work, but it's not that yes, you need to start a new project, I think. So this one it is a new project. So on this sidebar here, I'll just go to my dashboard. On this sidebar here, we can see these are my earlier ones, but you can see the other things that I have built, and you can go to jump between your builds. Okay, yes, exporting the code, that's a really useful one, especially if you hit any kind of speed bumps or problems and you're like, what's going here? What's going on? I'm not entirely sure what's happening. Let me just go back to here. You can get your code here. So this is all the code that it's already written for what we're building. And this bit here, you can see download code base. You can download that. And I really like dumping it over in Claude and then saying, hey, what do you think about this? Because obviously I don't really know what I'm looking at in terms of the code. So it's really helpful to have that kind of pairing with Claude and Lovable working together. Okay, so one of the things that we've built into the first go, this is the longest generation. Normally the first bit takes the longest. If you want to build something, and I was toying with not putting an authentication in, But then you have the trade-off of, if you're not on business, then you can't publish to an internal workspace. So if you're running a business and the finances and the cost of the thing makes sense for you, then you can build lots of internal tools and publish them internally. But if you want to publish to the internet, use authentication. It's super easy to set up, and it's kind of already set that up for us on here. Okay, so I'm going to, this is a new app, so I am going to quickly set up my authentication so we can carry on building, and it makes sure that all of your data stays separate. Okay, I'm going to create an account, and then it should have pinged me an email so I can authenticate myself and carry on building. Okay, so that should now let me sign in. I'm going to save that one. Okay, here we go. So what did we learn today? Okay, brilliant. Right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, so
I will ask for the people who lost a bit of a track on the way.
oh yeah,
Someone said that the app is asking for a screenshot to add. I don't know if it's built something in the prompt.
yes. So that first prompt, you can pick a screenshot of whatever you want in terms of the. Let me go back to this bit. So I added a screenshot of kind of the design of the PowerPoint, the presentation that I'm doing, and then use that as inspiration. You can pick a PowerPoint, a screenshot of anything, or you don't have to give it a screenshot. You could just say pick a design for however
But
you
that
want.
is the screenshot for kind of like the design principles and the colors and stuff.
Yeah, if there's something that you really like, do a screenshot. And Lovable is now really, really good at kind of mocking up things that look like it.
Okay. And I will just say for the people who kind of maybe joined late and missed the beginning, I would recommend watching, and then you will get the recording of the session, and then you will get the prompt documentation as well. So you can go back and then build with Ellie on demand later on.
Cool, thanks everyone. It is an hour for a build is quite busy, but it does fit. It will fit, and we can change various different things as we go along. So what I've asked to do, so it's the first one that it's built is just text input. But as we know, everybody is kind of, it's lots more voice is happening. You know, we all do lots of learning in different ways, you know, photos, files, etc. So what I've asked it to build now is to kind of have a much richer input. So when we're out kind of like exploring and learning, we can dump things in that are all different different formats, not just having to type things, because quite often I certainly find if I'm always just typing something, then it will fall by the wayside. What we can also see is, let me move this bit over here, is you can see on this tab here, that's kind of showing you what it looks like on a desktop. And you can just toggle this and it will show you what it looks like on a phone as well. So this one is building its phone, but it also other ones they do tablets kind of previews. Okay, so at the moment it is doing the different sorts of rich input forms. Okay, so we talked about authentications. I talked about this in relation to using Claude as kind of like your lovable coach. I think that kind of works quite well. It can help you kind of spot things that are going a bit wrong, or you don't quite know what to ask for. Claude will go and read all the documentation for Lovable and then come back and direct you to how to do what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, so it's done our inputs, so we can put different things in there. Let's have a go. I'm going to put I've got a photo that we can drop in, see what happens. Let's upload a photo. Okay, let's try this one. See what it looks like. Okay, this was a swim that I did, so I'm going to say just keep swimming. Okay, that's fun. So it looks like it works, and we can test different things. Okay, so the next one we've got, it's not just we've captured what we've learnt today, but also the whole point of learning and generalist world is that we're, forward facing and we're looking to the future. So what we can do for the next bit is think about what we've learned, but then also where that's going to take us next. So I want it to add 2 more sections, the where next and where my learning has made a difference, but also particularly as a generalist, sometimes because you feel like you're between spaces, sometimes it can be quite hard to feel like you're an expert in things. So one of the things that I really like to do is if I've done something well and I get a nice bit of feedback, I try and kind of keep it and then put it in a kind of like an online trophy cabinet or kind of like online hype machine. And that's kind of what I thought this app could do as well, as a kind of like, actually, this is my collection of things that I've external validation where people have said, hey, that was really good, etc. So it's adding those bits in now. Let's see what I'll give you a tour whilst we're doing this bit. In this more section here, this is where you can find the all important security bits and all the additional bits. And they are shipping a lot of extra stuff on Lovable the whole time. Okay, so we've got analytics here. So that will show visitor numbers when we hit publish, which can be quite fun. This is the cloud section. So we've enabled Lovable Cloud with this app because we're using that authentication. And this is where it keeps the storage and the back end and all of those things. And you can explore all of that. And we're going to use the AI connection in a minute. And you can also accept payments. So it's not happened to me yet, but Millie's made a viral app, and this is how you can connect and monetize things on Lovable. So you can connect it with Shopify and kind of other similar apps, and so that if people sign up or start using your app, you can make sure that and I would definitely explore it if you're opening something to the wider internet, and particularly if you hopefully put your build on the link later, it might be really popular, and you might have a kind of, you don't want to end up with a massive kind of AI bill because you've given everybody kind of free access to your APIs. So I do think about putting even if it's just a little small price tag that's going to cover your costs, just in case it gets super popular. Hasn't happened to me yet, but potentially. Okay, and then this in the security, we will do a security scan before we hit publish, and Lovable have done lots and lots of investment in this, and it's really good, and it's able to find vulnerabilities and make sure that it's kind of really hardened before you hit publish. Okay, let's see how it's getting on. What's quite fun in terms of adding your kind of learning as we're going is you can click into what Lovable is doing, and it narrates its own thought process. So what is nice is that you can if you're thinking, what is it talking about lints and regexes and all of this, you can have a look at that, and then if you want, I quite often then dump it back over into Claude and say, explain this to me, that to help me kind of understand what it's talking about. So as you kind of continue building, you get more of an idea about what some of the technical things are that go in. But none of us need to be experts in this. Okay, right. It looks
Ellie, could I just suggest,
yeah.
could we maybe take your slides down? I think it's maybe confusing folks that the slides
Yeah.
are, they think it's
Okay,
part of
cool.
Lovable because it's the same color.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
I think that might make it more clear.
And
Thank
I
you.
was
Okay,
gonna
brilliant.
I was gonna recommend because if people haven't, yes, you can you explain real quick on the preview and the bit so people can
Yes,
understand
sure. Yeah. So this bit here, where it says preview, this is where we can see, this is our sort of seeing what we're building. So you can always kind of see what it's built, see where it's up to, see what it's created. The refresh button is really helpful because sometimes you'll think it has done something or it hasn't done it yet, and you can refresh and then it will feed through all of the loads. Sometimes they get a little bit sticky. Okay, so it's built the where next and the proof of learning. But what I thought we could do is I've got some kind of made up learning points so we can see what happens when it's populated. And then this is the chat bar down the side. So when you want things, you just put things in the chat bar. So okay, so I've got some logs that I've created. So we've got something in there to use. Okay, so hopefully this is now going to populate our app with things that we've learnt. Obviously, they're kind of, synthetic made up ones. Okay. If you make a mistake or if it does something that you're really like, oh, I've gone down a wrong alley, I don't like it, this is where you can get the history and you can kind of roll back to different parts of your build and say, okay, take me back to that one, restore that version, and make sure that you're kind of staying where you want to. There we go. Let's go back on that one. Okay. Need to close the history. Okay, here we go. Oh, it needs me to sign in again. Okay, let's sign out. Sign in again. We'll see what's happening with that one. And you can just talk to Lovable like a teammate in terms of kind of creating things. So I'm just going to let it know that I signed out and in again and see what happens. It has. Let's see what it does though.
Meanwhile, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
One of them is, so for example, when you're building, if you don't like a recent change, can you go on the previous version?
Yeah, 100%. So you can tell it to do that in the chat, or you can go to that history one here where you can kind of roll back changes and go to find a timestamp with where you liked where you'd got up to, and then restore that version, which is quite useful. And these ones here, oh look, it's asking me to resend those sections. Let's do that again.
And one extra question, which also folks have been building, feel free to drop your suggestions in the chat. In general, do you recommend building the first couple of features and getting those right and then adding on? Or does it also work well to just brain dump the overall plan at the beginning and then refine from there? And I can say from my experience, 100% the first one. So like the bigger and more complex it is, the more that you're like, okay, where am I going to go solve this? Where am I going to fix it? And I remember when I first started building on Lovable, it gives you all these options and you're like, oh my gosh, I could build like the biggest, most complex app ever. And I would come back to Ali's original question. Who are you helping? And so that, why are you even doing this? Start with that, get it right. And then, of course, you can build on from there. And there's no better way to build than getting feedback. So, like when I launched the job board, I launched just a very basic job board. And then it was when people were emailing me, like, hey, this isn't working. Hey, this is annoying. Hey, I want to see this. Then I'm like, oh, okay, now it's feedback from real people who have a different perspective than me. I don't know if
Yeah,
you'd change or add anything there, Ali.
yeah, 100%. And it's really easy to build something that kind of like makes sense in your own head, as I'm learning in this in this session. And then like when you get that, you can't, it's invaluable, that signal, and kind of seeing what resonates and what people actually want and what they'll actually use and what makes sense to people. Okay. I've tried it a couple of one of the really fun ways that is kind of, it doesn't really make sense to build like this, but can you see these extra buttons? So Lovable itself now predicts what your next move might be. And sometimes if I'm just mucking around, I like to kind of just keep picking the next thing and then see what it turns up with in the end. And it will come up, it will suggest sometimes where it can spot a problem. It will suggest in these buttons here kind of like, oh, I've noticed this, but it doesn't necessarily flag, oh, you've got this issue, try and fix it here. But that's also quite fun. You can do like a really long build and then give it a ton of stuff to work through. But then if it doesn't work, you're not sure where the issue lied. So it's kind of that iterative stuff, I think is my preferred approach. Okay, so I'm gonna put in this one here, and in terms of iteration, I've started adding into all of my builds this WCAG 2.2 compliance, which is all about readability and making sure that people can read clearly what's on the screen. Lovable understands it really easily, so it's like a little tip that's quite good to put in. Right, we're going to put an AI feature in now. Built-in AI in Lovable is relatively new, and that adds, it's kind of another element of credits. Yes, mobile apps too. Yeah, 100%. So I'll just flick back onto that. So this is what it looks like on a mobile device, mobile preview, and then desktop preview. So you can really, it's really clever that it will change if there's things that are really important for desktop, but then will make things look too kind of squished and everything on a mobile version. It will just kind of like pick the bits which are least important and then just not present those on a mobile version so it looks sleek enough, or it will move them further down the page. So it is really useful for that. Okay, right, so it's doing a AI tagging. What I wanted it to do and what that app is there to show is where we've kind of captured things that we've learnt. I want it to map it across to those 10 skills that are kind of the skills of the future that are most going to be in demand for core skills. Okay, so it might take a little bit of a long time. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the hallucination issues. I've not really had that much in Lovable. It's more a case of that sometimes it will go a bit off piste and build something that is kind of not necessarily something that you didn't ask for, but just something that it thinks might be helpful. They're like filling in a gap, which can sometimes it's kind of amazing, and then sometimes it's kind of a bit like a human looking at this wouldn't really like it. But that's where the Lovable aesthetics has come in, and they've done big upgrades so that you can make things look a lot less kind of vibe coded, with that kind of vibe coded look that can often happen. Okay, right, it's doing a bit of a long build.
Can I ask a couple of questions
Yeah, go for it.
while it's working? So is there a way that we can control the tokens credit to manage our costs when we're experimenting? Basically, how do we do this as cheap as possible?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So let's see if we can have a look at, let's have a look at the credits so far. Okay, so on this one so far, we've done eight messages. We've we've used 14 credits, and we've used 3 AI credits because it is currently building that AI build. So you get 5 a day just on the free basic plan. So I think if I was like really trying to kind of budget and kind of like manage what I was doing, I think that's a really good use case for getting Claude on the case and saying, right, Claude, I've got 5 credits a day. Find out from the Lovable website exactly how the credits are best calculated. I mean, it changes and it fluctuates. And then can you build me a kind of like thing to do on Monday, the Tuesday iteration, Wednesday iteration. A really good way to reduce the amount is by using the planning tool. I only used it for the first one because then that Lovable will ask you more questions and it will come up the plan and then it will build once. You do use more if you just go for build. So yeah, doing the planning first, breaking it down into stages and splitting it across days is a good way. But also I would Claude on the case saying, how can I build without using as many credits? I think is an approach. If anyone's got any other tactics, I think it is a hot topic.
I think my advice would be, again, just keep it simple. I think keep it simple, do the planning. I think where people often go wrong, where I have gone wrong in building on these kind of apps, is that I outsource the thinking, and that's the problem. So when I outsource the thinking and like I'm not doing that, number one, that's going to use more credits, and number two, it's going to become an app that is like everything else. So the best advice I can give you for using these is to add your own weird, add your own humor, add your own character, add your own personality, and don't just outsource everything because then it's just like it's an LLM. So it's just going to pattern match to things that already exist. So
Yeah,
this is if you're creative and if you have this idea where you're like, this is a time to be a bit risky. That's what I'm trying to say. This is a time to push the boundaries of creativity that you, especially like me, I'm non-technical, that I simply couldn't have done before. So that would be my advice.
yeah, 100%, Millie. I completely agree. Now, this is where it's going, but I cannot see. It should have created. Here we go. We've got an add a skill thing here. So this is where we'll see whether it works. So what I wanted it to do is to tell me where I am growing in different areas on those things. So look, it's done it. Okay, so it's tagging our entries for those different skills. So we've got creative thinking, motivation and self-awareness in our proof. And let's do it. Let's put the button down here. Okay. So there we go. That works. Well, let's do this one as well. And so the AI bit of it is built in, but that's where the credits, and if you're opening something to the open internet and inviting other people to sign up, they will be attached to your account, so you can easily kind of burn through things. So do think about putting, if you've got an absolute banger on your on your hands and you've a stroke of genius that everybody's going to want to use, do make sure that you're looking after your wallet as well and not kind of picking up everybody's tab, and put in, even if it's just a kind of like parity, like community pricing, because it can rack up quickly. Okay, right. So I think on the next bit is what I wanted to do is this, from my feeling, this looks a little bit vibe coded to me. It's kind of like it's got the cards, it's got the boxes, it's got that sort of slightly generic feel that Millie was talking about. So what I want to have created now is more of a kind of like a bird's eye view, kind of giving me the shape of the skills that we're developing, where things are kind of coming together, and let's see what it can create with that. But also, and because it is an LLM, it can be quite hardwired to let's make everything gamification, let's make everything like something you can complete. So what I've found when you're sort of creating things that might be a bit more creative or something that takes away some of that pressure about like going, oh, here's all the information in the world, you can learn it all. It's like trying to dial that down. Sometimes when you're prompting, you need to kind of like actively tell it, like, don't make this a competition, don't make this like a checklist of things to be completed, and to try and curate the experience a bit there. We'll see what happens. Okay, in the background I am going to kick off a security review, so we're going to see what happens, so we can hit publish. So every time you kind of hit a send, it will do a scan, but I'm going to ask it to run a deep security scan. And what is great about Lovable is that they don't charge you credits for running security scans. So one bit of advice is just scan, 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 scan. It's not going to cost you any more money, but it will find any vulnerabilities and make sure that your data and your APIs and all of that is all safe. Okay. That's interesting. In terms of being like locked in, let me just go back to, let's go back to our preview. It looks like it's, okay, it's done the skills thing. Let's see what it's come up with. Okay, so it's kind of grouped our inputs into different areas. What we've got, creative thinking here. So it's got kind of some logs and kind of like that hype thing where, had great feedback from people. Okay, but what I would like it to do is to help me to find learning opportunities, so that it's giving me ideas for where I've kind of, I haven't got anything with technological literacy there. What I'd like it to do is to give me some options and suggestions about where I can go and see that and find those learning opportunities if I haven't. So I've got a kind of an extra prompt there, which gives me kind of ways of finding those opportunities. Okay, we'll leave that. Let's see how the scan is getting on. Still scanning. It used to do them like really quite quickly, but sometimes, particularly if you've built something that's quite complicated, it can take a long time. I'm going to go back to, okay. It's asking for, let's ask for its starter for 10. So when Claude is using its own internal LLM to create content, and when I was doing one of the practice builds, this happened. Like I wanted it to create ideas and learn, like podcasts, places to go to develop particular areas of learning, but it came up with what I considered to be quite a kind of overly platformed reading list. Not that many women, not that many people of color. There was a lot of white males in the things that it came up with. So that's why I deliberately put in like make it a diverse in thought list, not just because it is trained on the open internet. It will give you the standard people that have got the most space on the internet. So do actively try and make sure that it doesn't, if it's suggesting things for you, it will you've got to kind of push it back to make sure that you're kind of baking in the approach that you want to go for. Okay, let's have a quick look, see how our security is getting on. Okay, so it's got a database error here. Let's have a look. So if you want to really learn about what's going on the security side of things, you can dig and get kind of the full documentation in here, which is a really good thing to do, but not something we have the time for today. Okay, and I'm going to ask it to fix these. I'm going to delete that. So it should work on those security issues in the background, and then we can jump back and see what it has come up with on the where next. Oh, skills. Okay, motivation and self-awareness. Ideas to take this further. Okay, so this is all stuff that Lovable has generated within the app. Okay, so ways to find learning, questions to sit with, so kind of reflections. Sometimes it's a bit generic, sometimes it's, it responds to what you've put in, but that could be, and then it's given me the option here. Okay, yeah, I like that one. Let's have a look at this one. And let's kind of add that to our list for things we're going to explore. Okay, so it's done that bit. Right. We are going to hit, looks like it is still fixing security. I think we could do with a home page because we're going to hit publish soon. Let's have a home page. Okay, I think it's fixed those. So what we've been building here, we've been building the back end, we've been building the middle bit, but what we haven't built at the front is what people will see if they click on our link when we put it on Millie's post later. People would it would start off with that sign-in page. It's jumping straight to this one because it was my sign-in page. Okay. And one of the things that it does now is instead of just building something, it will give you some concept mock-ups. So you can kind of have 3 options and then say, actually, yeah, I like the middle one, go with that one. So it might be doing that now, we will see. Okay, so whilst it's thinking about that home page, this is where it all starts to come together in terms of publish. So you can use your own custom domain, and you can now also buy them through Lovable. And obviously, if it's like you're picking a really popular custom domain that's got a price tag on there, I found it's roughly about the same as if you were going to buy something through GoDaddy or any of the other platforms. And you can connect your existing domain. So if you've got one already, you can then do all the DNS stuff in the background. I'd never done that before, and it does lead you through things like quite gently. So if you do go down that route, but I'm going to, well, I think let's hit publish with, okay, let's see what it did with the homepage. Looks like it's, we'll see. Okay, it's a bit vibe codey. We're running out of time. We could do another, make it jazzy a little bit later. Okay. Right, so I'm going to change the name and call it GW Learning Growth. Or, yeah. I could even ask it to help me with my spelling. Okay. It has this end here, like Lovable app. That means you don't have to pay for this one. It tells everybody that it's built on Lovable, but I'm fine with that for this one. And so this is where the kind of the different tiers fit in. So if I wanted to only publish it to my colleagues and we had a business plan, that's really good for internal tools. But we're going to do it on the public internet. And here we go. It's going to generate we can generate a social image. So it will have that little kind of preview thing that comes up where you share the link. Takes a little while to, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That'll do for now. Okay, so I'm going to hit, I'm going to just hit publish. We did a scan not that long ago, and also I haven't got any kind of massive personal secrets in there. if I'd bared my soul on it, I would probably run it again. Okay. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to publish. Okay.
While it's publishing, Ellie, we could take a couple of questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this one's been asked a few different ways. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
around like website analytics? I know that Lovable has analytics. I can't really remember the last time I saw it. I think it was kind of like
Yeah.
fairly basic, but like if you're just wanting simple analytics, I don't know if it connects to like Google Analytics or anything. Do you know?
You can connect it to Google Analytics. It's the if you on the DNS side of things, if you do your kind of like own domain, it is. I have done it on
Sure.
one website for our kind of for our business. It took a bit of time. It's not something I'd probably try and do within an hour, but I've dropped the
Mhm.
link in there. So if people jump on it, we can have a look at what the analytics shows.
Oh, awesome.
Um, oh, there we go. There's everybody. Yeah, so there we go. People are on the page. We've
Wild.
got people from Egypt, Canada, Netherlands, UK. That was really fun. So you can, if you build something and share it, you can kind of see what's happening with it. And also, it's got that SEO thing, which is also like super new. Um, and so if you're wanting to get kind of discoverable and things like that, it's doing a scan on the project now. Um, and it's basically saying you are committing all the sins of not being discoverable, but then it can fix it, and so you can say, oh, can you fix it so people can discover my site. In terms of slide decks, I've never actually done slide decks on Lovable. I've used it. So I've not never created one where people have like signed up and given me money, but I have made indirect income through Lovable by doing mock-ups for business proposals and saying, oh, this is what we could build, or this is how we would do the dashboarding, and this is that kind of thing. That's been quite useful. Yes, you can publish on the internet without a domain. It's done a domain, but it is a subdomain of Lovable. So that's sort of part of what you're paying for, is that it will let you publish everything, but you have to pay extra to get rid of the Lovable.app.
Just a question on APIs. Do you know if APIs can be integrated?
Yes, yes. And it is. So one of the things I was a bit worried about today is when I was doing a practice one and it was doing the voice connecting, they've done a new connector with 11 Labs and it wouldn't let me kind of continue without putting in an 11 Labs API. What they're more and more doing with Lovable is kind of having everything kind of baked in a bit. Where you can get to the API stuff is in the clouds, and that's in the secrets bits here. Okay, so you can see, oh look, 16. There we go. I've used 16 requests so far on Gemini, but it's using Gemini Flash. That's the one that's standardly kind of like built in. Say you wanted to do something that was like really ambitious and you wanted to kind of like plug in like Fable with from Claude, and you put that in, you would need to connect your Anthropic console API, and that's where you can put them in. You kind of put them in here. So you just go to cloud, to secrets, and then whatever it is that you want to add in, you kind of add another, and then and then it will be able to use them. Never put, and in fact, it used to let you do it, but if the chat is detecting that you've pasted in an API key into the chat, it will say, no, 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 don't give me that. Don't give me your API key. You've got to put it in the cloud, in the secrets page, so it's properly protected.
We had one question around, and I think it's a great one. It is how well does Lovable do at suggesting ideas? So let's say if I want to make an interactive portfolio, here's my website. It's going to be looked at by recruiters so they can explore different parts of my work, at what point do you suggest going straight to Lovable? And at what point would you maybe like say jam with Claude on something like that?
Yeah. Oh, really interesting. Okay, so there is a thing that you can do, and lots of people, let's have a go. So you can, um, there's templates here. So you can, people who build a lot with Lovable or like are really kind of super into it, they will kind of like publish templates, or they will allow you to remix um their builds. So you can, if there's one here that particularly you like the style, or it's like, yeah, like this, or you could just take a screenshot of it, put it into Claude and say, I really like this. I want to, I want to build it with for it to kind of look a bit like this, then you can absolutely do that. I I think Lovable is absolutely amazing, but it is not a like design tool, and the aesthetics part of it is relatively new. It's pretty cool, and we'll do kind of mock-ups, and it is a lot more flexible these days. But I would like draw in your inspiration and what you really love from elsewhere and get it to work with that, rather than like outsourcing the the real kind of look and feel for what you want. We've done it quite quick today, but that is kind of, yeah, that's also like a really fun bit as well.
We've done it quite quick. And like, if we were to rewind even 3 years ago, and you would have told us that we would have sat together on this workshop, you would have literally been presenting a workshop and built this functioning, pretty app that people can then go and use immediately. Like, it's pretty wild the progress that has been made in
Yeah,
a short few years.
yeah. I just find it mind blowing. Like, I did my degree on literally pen and paper. I didn't have a laptop, and so kind of like being able to do this now, I just get so excited by what's possible and what we're kind of like able to do. I'm going to quickly show you one that I built because I'd spent a little bit more time, and the design came out a little bit nicer on the homepage on this one. So this is kind of like one of the practice ones that I did that had more of a homepage, and I didn't give it that much more of a kind of a design thing, but it came up with something which was a bit nicer to kind of go out. You can see that this one, like when you compare them, that's like, but you can just iterate and have fun, really. Cool.
This has
That's kind of like what I've got, really.
Nailed it, Ali, nailed it. And I know we didn't get to everyone's questions as we never do, but what we will do is we will drop Ali's LinkedIn and highly encourage you to go and message her with any other questions. I can see there's already a little working group forming in the comments, which is just the most generalist world thing ever to figure out how we could work together on creating a living CV.